January 31st, room 4, 7 o'clock, Carver Town Hall.
Oh, nice.
Could everybody just please silence your cell phones, just have respect for the presenters and the board, please. I'm going to read a statement here. We've had a little bit of discussion this week, so. I've received a couple of emails from residents who do not agree with the rules of engagement that I have established for the meetings of this committee. Please be advised that my decision to establish these rules was based upon my observations of previous meetings in which members of the public frequently interrupted the proceedings and refused to comply with the reasonable directions from the chair. The rules I have established are based on the specific terms of the open meeting law, which state, no person shall address a meeting of a public body without permission of the chair, and all persons shall, at the request of the chair, be silent. No person shall disrupt the proceedings of a meeting of a public body. If after clear warning from the chair, a person continues to disrupt the proceedings, the chair may order the person to withdraw from the meeting, and if the person does not withdraw, the chair may authorize a constable or other officer to remove the person from the meeting. During our last meeting, even announcing these rules, members of the public continued to interrupt the proceedings, and they ignored clear warnings from me. I've given members of the public a very wide berth to participate in the meeting, but the committee cannot effectively conduct its business in the face of constant interruptions. You're reminded that the purpose of this meeting is for the committee to discuss and vote upon important business of the town, and I will continue to limit public comment so that it does not interfere with that objective. I've set aside a reasonable opportunity for members of the public to speak at appropriate times, and while I do not wish to have anybody removed from the meeting, I will exercise my authority to do so if anyone continues to interrupt the meeting after being warned. Thank you. Okay. Thank you all members of the board for coming. I appreciate all your work that you do for us. Next item on the agenda is bear with me here. I'd like to approve the minutes from the 20th of December meeting.
I move to approve the minutes
As presented. Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Do we have any discussion on approval of the minutes of December the 20th? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay, I was absent.
Thank you. Any abstentions?
And just so you know, Michael, that's fine, but at the last work meeting, Greg Coble did say that because it's just procedure, as long as you read them over, it's just voted on the minutes. If the agreement like that. What were you gonna say?
5-1.
Okay. Was it, Dick, did you second?
He did.
I second.
Yep. Just for the members of the audience at home that are watching, and for the audience that's here, we still do have one last member seat that's available. It is a Board of Selectmen seat. The approval process is on the town website, how you get there. So I'm just keep throwing it out there. We're a 7-member board with 6 members, so we are still looking for that last person. Next on the agenda is the inspector/agent discussion. We've been talking about this now for a couple of meetings. Mr. Ward brought this up, thankfully. I did have a discussion with the town administrator about this thing. Bear with me 1 second. Had a discussion with Mr. Fennessy. So he and the Board of Selectmen through Mark Townsend and Town Council are now working on amending the part-time position of the Carver Board of Health agent, Kevin Ford, his job description. So once that gets finalized, we'll have a discussion on having Mr. Ford come along as our inspector or agent.
So he'd be a full-time member of the
He would
employee of the town?
be a part-time member of the board here and a part-time member of the Board of Health.
Okay.
He's a Board of Health agent now, part-time.
Okay.
Okay? So that has not been finalized. So we are waiting with bated breath to have that decision made and have the job description squared away. Any further discussion on that? Does anybody want to?
What was his name again?
Kevin Borg. He is in fact the Board of Health agent.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Just a comment that I think with the complexities of dealing with earth removal and the regulations and folks and the citizens and what their complaints might be, checking on things, checking on plans and progress on different permits. You just can't expect the members of the community to do all that, especially where we're non-paid volunteers. So I think that's excellent.
Yeah, it's a lengthy process to get somebody new on board. And to your point, Mr. Ward, we are a very complex situation in the town. You can tell by the amount of people here today, which I'm thrilled that you all are here, as a matter of fact, that there is passion around this situation. So to have somebody like Kevin with his experience working at the town of Carver, I think it'll just be a little bit better for everybody involved. Anything else on the inspector or agent? We went on 3 site walks on January the 6th. When we were there, I handed out a sheet for you all. It asked you to fill that out as you were going along so we could actually remember what your comments or concerns were with any of the projects. We did start at the Pontiff site, and at that point, I'd like to hear from some of you guys what you thought about the Pontiff site.
I mean, overall, Scott, from the Cranberry Growers Association, I'm glad to see that more cranberry bogs are going in.
I'm sorry, Meg, can you refrain from that, please? Thank you.
And I am glad to see cranberry bogs are going in versus housing developments or other opportunities that are in this plan.
Any other comments about the site walk at the Pontiff site? We'll get into it in a lot greater detail later on, but.
Well, my comments were, I did think that where it's such a big farm and more than half their cranberry bogs are the older varieties that really, in our industry, we're realizing early blacks and Howes aren't paying all the bills as well, and we all need to be increasing our ability to be more competitive in terms of their farm. And so putting in the high-tech vines and higher production is going to help this whole picture on that farm so that we can see that farm to stay in existence, because that is it's almost 1,000 acres of open space and things that these cranberries are supporting. And so that is a very, very important thing, I think, to our town.
Thank you.
I asked questions of the owners and the engineers.
So if I might,
Yep.
we can save that till the public
Okay.
meeting is,
Yep.
the public hearing is open. I was just looking for broad comments as to the site walk. So apologize for that. Anybody else have anything about Pontiff site visit?
I'll echo what Dick said, and I too am happy to see more cranberry bog going in rather than the alternative. And it's a property and a company that's proven to do successful bog projects in the past, and that's the key to the sustainability of the industry. So as someone that lives and breathes it, I get it from the landowner perspective and everything else. So it's a win for all.
Thank you. We were there from about 8, we started at 8 o'clock, got done at about 9:15, so we were there for an hour and 15 or so minutes. Next stop was at the Edgewood Bogs. Anybody have any comments about that project that was going on? Okay, while we were there, talked with Matt and Jared Rhodes. and informed them that they were 4 years deep into a 5-year project. They now have been notified that, in fact, at 5 years, we'll expect to see if they want to continue a professionally drawn engineered plan and get that in front of us before the permit goes out, or they can have an as-built and show that it's closed. So that was one of the things that we did speak about. Project looked good to me. They had the water hole surrounded by rocks, so nobody could fall in there with a vehicle. And it did look good to me. Anybody else?
My first time on the property, so really no historical perspective, but
Mine as well.
the property owner was there to answer, or give an overview of the project. Project's moving forward, and the applicant seems to be operating in a responsible manner, consistent with our bylaw. There haven't been any neighborly complaints that we know of. And, yeah, that's it.
Okay. We were there from about 20 after 9 to about 9:45 that morning. Then we moved on to the Mackey site. I will start. The Mackey site was as John had indicated, was my first time at the Mackey site. First glance, there was 1.5 inch stone on the roadway, so there was no tracks going out onto Rochester Road. That's usually what happens to me, Mike. Like I said, it was friendly.
Press the side button. Can I help you?
Perfect. I love the interlude. So it was, again, my initial site, there was 1.5 inch stone put down. There was a loader screening plant there, an excavator. They had sloped and loamed a bunch of the pond edges. We did speak, their attorney was present on site as well. Told us in no uncertain terms that they will in fact be done by the March deadline that was imposed by this board. The one thing that we did talk about with the contractor and the attorney was that seed typically doesn't go down that time of the year, which is the end of March, so that they've asked to do the seeding afterwards, which we haven't voted on anything yet, but my consideration would be to make sure the grass grows. So put it down at the right time, and then we can see that it's growing, see that everything's happening, and then we can close the permit out at that point in time. No more trucks would be going after the drop dead date. It would just be the seeding. But it was nice to have the landowner, the contractor, and the attorney there as well. They know that it's a problem for the neighborhood, and it'll be nice to have it closed down. Anybody else?
I wasn't there, but I mean, what you're reporting sounds pretty sensible, and I'm glad to hear that it is going to stop.
This will in fact be done. Trucks will stop by the 29th, which was the drop dead date, I believe, that this board set forth. Okay.
14 years?
Okay. Mrs. Beedling, I apologize. Are you in the audience this evening? I apologize for the last time. You do have time to speak on this topic tonight.
Yes, I do.
And the floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, the street being cleaned, they had the street sweeper there 2 days before your visit. Second, I have been documenting trucks for several years now. And I went back through old truck docs from 2015, 18, 21, and I have recorded overages. They are only allowed 25 trucks a day times 5 days a week. That's 150 if I'm correct. They were over. 200, 207, they were 160. So I want to know if they were fined at all during that time. And as I said, I have been documenting the trucks for several years. I documented trucks during their cease and desist between September 13th and I believe it was the middle of November, when they said they were not working, they were not hauling sand out of there. They were, in fact. I saw them, my husband saw them, my neighbors saw them. There were no truck logs turned into the town, so therefore, there were no fees that were paid. There were probably no fines levied on them for working during the cease and desist. And, I mean, this is just ridiculous. They've been doing it for years and gotten away with it. I want to know if they're going to be fined for any of the truck overages or for working during the cease and desist. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, and I don't have the answers to those questions right now, but I will get them for you.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody have any comments to that? There's a couple of members that have been here during that time.
Did you or anyone bring this to the attention of the board?
I can't hear you.
Did you or anyone bring this to the attention of the board?
Oh, yes,
During the
several
time?
times.
Can't even believe you said that.
Several times.
Yeah, correct.
I have emails from back to 2021, I think. Yep, I brought it to their attention, brought it up at the meeting, brought pictures in, brought documents in, and they got away with it.
Thank you very much.
If I may ask about the site visit,
Yes,
January 6th,
yes.
how many people were there?
There were 3 of us,
I was there,
4 of us, myself, John.
first time I've seen.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Were you there? as
I
well?
was unable.
So there was 5 of us
I
there.
was unable to.
Did you guys all walk? Was the property owner there? Did she walk with you, or?
She did not walk with us. She sat in her vehicle.
She was in the car, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, thank you.
thank you very much. And I will in fact look into that and get an answer to you.
Okay.
Showing I had pictures of the road now.
Oh, yes. That was another thing, if I may.
Sure.
My husband took pictures this afternoon of the road,
Okay.
from the access road onto Rochester, down to my house. They don't clean it like they say they do.
Okay.
They don't. He can send you pictures or email them or whatever.
That would be great information for us to have.
But they're not. They're just doing it all for show, for you,
Okay.
not for anybody else,
If
just for
you can
you.
email the committee those pictures, that would be
Okay,
spectacular.
all right, we'll do that.
No,
Thank you. Moving on. I'd like to now open the public hearing that was continued for E.J. Pontiff Cranberries, located at 104 Tremont Street, map 123, lot 13-0. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I make a few opening remarks?
Yes, please.
Okay, very good. So, for the record, Attorney Rob D'Ambrose representing E.J. Pontiff Cranberries, Inc., D'Ambrose Law in Plymouth. Before you tonight, again, we were here back on December 20th, but just as a reminder, we're seeking the creation of 5 new cranberry bogs at the former Federal Furnace Cranberry site. Those are adjacent to existing active cranberry bogs,
Oh, yeah, thanks.
obviously also owned and farmed by my client, E.J. Pontiff Cranberries, Inc. Again, I know everyone's familiar with the site. Most of you had a chance to visit on January 6th if you weren't familiar with it. But for the record, the project site is a very small portion of the overall land holding. It's about 17.8 acres of new bog on an approximately 949 acre parcel. And the agricultural parcel, in terms of what's in agriculture, active bogs, we got about 240 acres of actively managed and farmed cranberry bogs on the site. Federal Furnace, that piece of land has been a continuously operated cranberry farm since the late 1800s. And again, just for the record, Mr. Pontiff is a 3rd-generation grower. He's got approximately 350 acres of active cranberry bogs under cultivation himself. And again, the endeavor here is to expand cultivation on land that's been used that way for multiple generations. So as you know, the establishment of these bogs entails earth removal, as it usually does. And again, we had an opportunity at the last hearing on December 20th to walk you through the plans. Kevin Flaherty was able to do that from our civil engineering firm. So we won't rehash all that unless you want us to. I'm certainly happy to field any questions about project specifics. In terms of what has happened since our last hearing, to kind of get you up to speed, so again, January 6th, you guys rehashed the site walk. Again, I think that gave everyone a chance to appreciate what's there, what's going to be there, the relationship of this project to the existing infrastructure and why there's synergy in terms of where it's to be located. Also, I think gave you a chance to understand the siting of the ingress and egress, why we think that's sensible and superior to the main entrance, and the excellent sight lines that provides. Since that last hearing also, we distributed hard copy plan sets to a number of local boards and committees and departments: Agricultural Commission, Board of Assessors, Planning Board, Conservation Commission, Fire Department, Police Department, DPW, Board of Selectmen, Board of Health, to get everyone in the loop and allow them a chance to comment if they see fit. And then another item that we followed up on, I did contact Jill Martins in the Planning Permitting Department, wanted to see if there were any issues last time Federal Furnace had an earth removal project on the site, which was roughly 2009, or at least commenced about then. And so she scoured the Planning Department and Building Department files. She found no evidence of any complaints. So again, hopefully that's testimony to the fact that earth removal can be done on this site without nuisance to abutters or anyone else in town. Along those lines, again, although we didn't really get into it last meeting, and it's certainly within your discretion, just want to emphasize to the board that we're happy to accept customary conditions. And again, in our opinion, or in our experience, those typically would consist of some of the following. Phasing, finish one phase. As you saw, we've broken our project into 5 phases. Finish one before we move on to the next, stabilize, in fact, plant one bog before we start the next bog. Reasonable daytime hours of removal. Again, that last Federal Furnace project was 7 to 5, Monday through Saturday. We're flexible on that, but just to throw it out there, a limited number of trips per day, certainly. Again, that last permit, for purpose of comparison, was 70 trips a day. Happy to exercise extra caution during school bus hours for safety reasons. Certainly abide by all truck rules that this committee adopts. I think you've got to stand along kind of trucking protocol. No staging on Tremont Street, to avoid any nuisance. Again, I think we kind of displayed well during the site walk where we'd be able to stage, keep everything off the street, keep the street clean of dust. That certainly is a priority. That's important for everyone. And of course, certainly amenable to the quarterly inspection fees that are customary on a per yard basis. So again, just a few things to leave you with, and happy to field questions. And I would like the opportunity, if there is some, I'll call it opposition argument, to just respond to it at the end.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any members of the board have any questions, comments, concerns for the applicant?
Well, my concern, at said one of them, was, is there going to be sand available on that farm for future use? And they assured me that was in their contingent plan and overall future plan. So that was satisfied. So generally, I think that they covered it pretty well, so that I had a pretty good understanding of what they were going to do and what they needed to do and how they felt about the neighbors in the community. And so I would say that's the extent of my concerns.
Thank you. I'll start at the end. Mr. Shores, do you have anything that you asked or wanted to get out there for the record?
Nothing that wasn't addressed satisfactorily at the site visit. Again, I think it's a good project. I think especially in that historic a place. Federal's been around a long time. It's been a cranberry bog for a long time. Happy to see Eric not only talking about doing that, but handing it off to another generation of farmers. So
beautiful. Mr. Harrison?
It's 17.8 acres in total. What's the total sand to be excavated?
Roughly 1.5 million yards. That's showing on your plan. Got the exact numbers, Kevin. 1.5.
Well, he wasn't here last time.
I wasn't here.
So we did address it last time.
1,533,706 is the estimate.
Michael, this is for you, this is for
Mr. Mason?
Let's see, the questions I had the day of our site visit were in regards to property buffers. sloping and the entry and exit way out on Tremont Street. Buffers to me were satisfactory, leaving a wooded strip between Eric's property and Miles Standish State Forest and the West Line Road. Sloping is in line with prior projects and has been approved by the Conservation Commission, I'm told. And the entryway, where it's narrow, has the ability to be expanded where it does not impact any conservation concerns. So I think, and then with the staging of trucks on Tremont Street being addressed, I don't see any further issues. It's a beautiful property, and it was nice to be able to visit it when we did the site walk, so.
Chair, I do have, I don't know if you saw or not, the email from, all the boards. Most people didn't have any comments, but the fire department, they were just.
I'm gonna get to that in a little bit.
I have a copy if anyone needs it.
I have them as well, and
Okay.
I'll address that in a bit.
So, no, everything was answered satisfactory, so I really don't have any other questions at this time in regards to the project.
Mr. Bentley?
One of the questions I asked on site was about, given the sensitivity of the site with endangered or threatened species, what did Natural Heritage say? And I think you answered it adequately for me, but if you can just elucidate to the audience, that'd be great.
Sure, yeah, so happy to do that. So there is a small, relative to the overall project, portion of the proposed bog development that's within Natural Heritage Endangered Species. It's a habitat. We did get a no-take letter, actually just hot off the presses. I think we got it 3 days ago. We had submitted a preliminary application even before we had our NOI in back in July. Got a no-take letter then, but then as protocol, we're involved with DEP now due to a request for superseding orders relative to the Concom approval, and DEP asked us to get a no-take letter, pursuant to the filed NOI, which we just got about 2 days ago. So I guess my response to you, Mr. Bentley, would be that we have a letter from Natural Heritage saying that, in their view, this project won't unduly impact any endangered species, and hence the no-taking as a result of the project.
Excellent question. Anything else? I had a couple of different comments and concerns. When we were out at the site, we did talk about the buffer zone. I had asked if you guys could reach out to the state as they are your neighbor on that side. Did that in fact happen, and did you get a response?
Yeah, we did reach out to Miles Standish, haven't gotten a response. Is that fair? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And that was just in relation to the buffer zone, which to me looked good. You are bordering in fact, Miles Standish State Forest, which brings me to my second comment, which we did not talk about. This came from the fire department, actually. The access fire roads on that site, from Assistant Deputy Chief Boyle, had asked to make sure that that is in fact open throughout the whole project, and make sure at the end of the project that that is in fact a roadway for the fire department. God forbid anything happens up at Miles Standish again. They did in fact have to access that this year, I understand. So that was certainly one of the things that was brought about. We had, standing at the edge of Tremont Street, we had talked about the roadway getting maybe a little bit wider, maybe a little bit longer, so that there would be no impedance of trucks coming off of Tremont Street if there was one waiting to get on. Did you address that in any of the plans changes at all?
We didn't want to submit new plans because we want to go with the record, but we're happy to accept a condition to that effect.
Okay.
Absolutely, that makes sense, and we're fine with it.
Yeah, and it just does alleviate the pressure on Tremont Street.
Yep.
The sightlines, I believe, are much better than the main entrance as well. So all those things and the comments from the board, I absolutely agree with everything everybody said. There is in fact an appeal at the Conservation Commission. I have not heard from several boards back. Some of them have no finding. I'll read all the responses later on. But right now there is in fact an appeal at Concom. I've been advised to continue this until we get a determination on that appeal, on that finding, okay? I've been told it is forthcoming. I was hopeful that it would be done by now. it is not. So, at that point, unless there's any questions from the board. Any questions, comments from the audience? I'm gonna give everybody a couple of minutes, just to not drag this out.
May I, before you turn over,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, and again, it's certainly your prerogative, but is town council giving your opinion? I have an opinion about the order of operations in terms of conservation DEP. Has town council weighed in on that?
No.
Okay. You want my opinion? Probably not.
Probably not.
Oh, okay.
Questions, comments, concerns from the audience? Yes, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Brandon Fenner. F is in Foxtrot, A, N is in Nancy, E, U, F, Foxtrot. I'm with the company Ecosystem Solutions, 100 Jefferson Boulevard, Warwick, Rhode Island. I'm with Meg. I'm glad that you mentioned the issues with the Conservation Commission and the appeal. I'm helping to head that appeal. Yeah, I agree, it would have been nice if we'd gotten an answer by now, but you can't rush DEP, they're in no rush. You know, it's not about the hours you work, it's about the hours you don't work, right? So, among the issues that we're appealing, obviously the soil removal, but in particular, proposed bogs 1 and 2. And this relates to section 9.1.5B of your bylaw regarding water table elevations, requirement to show the before and the after water table elevations. So, proposed bogs 1 and 2 are at elevations 85 and 84. There are wetlands within 100 feet of both of those bogs. On the plans that have been provided, they're shown at about elevation 92. So the bogs that are being proposed and the soil that's going to be removed is going to bring the elevation down about 7 feet below the elevation of the wetlands that are right next door. So my concern, and with the concerns that I'm bringing to DEP, is that by lowering the elevation of the land, you will effectively be bleeding the wetlands on either side and drying those out. So that's among the issues that are being considered, and I'd like you to consider those as well in relationship to your bylaw. Okay? That's it. That's the big issue. I just wanted to bring the appeal to your attention, but you already know about it. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anybody else?
Sure.
Ms. Sheehan?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been attending almost every earth removal committee meeting since March of 2021. Very, very concerned about everything that I've seen. I've seen 2 chairs resign. Now we know that the Inspector General, who investigates public fraud and abuse of and corruption, is investigating the earth removal committee. So, as we've put in our legal briefs and our complaints, the earth removal committee is not following the bylaw. This is a project you're portraying to the public as agricultural excavation, which requires the applicant to show that this is necessary and incidental to prepare the site for cranberry agriculture. There's not one bit of information to show that taking out about $30 million worth of sand and gravel, or maybe they can tell us how much it's going to be. Massive, massive amount, 5 years at least, that is necessary to build 17 acres of bogs when the cranberry industry, I think we'll all agree, has been in economic decline, and Hillary Sandler says there's basically no chance of the cranberry industry in Massachusetts being other than a barely break-even industry. So we'd like to know why this is necessary. We'd also like to know why it's necessary to mine into the aquifer and how much sand is going to be removed below grade in the Plymouth Carver sole source aquifer, a federally designated aquifer, and why that tailwater pond is actually necessary and how it's going to allegedly improve the water quality in the surrounding area. Mr. Ward, I believe, called this a farm.
Thank you very much, Sierra.
I'm sorry, but there are many issues here.
And that's why I'm wanting to stop everybody at 2 minutes so we can have a chance for everybody to speak
Well,
about this.
what I have to say is important, and I'm going to say it. That
Can
there's
you
been 20
refrain, please,
No.
and take a seat?
There have been 27 million cubic yards of
I've
sand and
asked
gravel
nicely.
removed from this town. This site has a $5 million solar project on it.
Please don't make me do this, Margaret. Please don't make me do this, I'm being nice.
Over 3 million cubic yards of sand and
All right.
gravel out of here.
Thank you. Thank
It's
you for your
not a
comments.
farm.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else in the audience? Ms. Dormer?
I would like to ask some questions about the aquifer. And are there groundwater monitoring wells to show the elevation before and after is that planned before the excavation and the mining? And what steps are going to be taken to protect the aquifer? Are we going to test the water before the sand is taken out? Will we test it after? If there is contamination found, how are we going to protect all the neighbors? Are we going to, will the owner commit to providing bottled water while they clean it up? Because there's, we only have one source of water in Carver. And almost everybody is on wells. And I would say about 70% of Carver is contaminated. And it's a big issue, and it needs to be addressed. And part of it is that the sand is being taken out. That's the natural filter.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I got a question.
Please.
So my question is about the bog. Like, people are saying the bogs don't make any money. We need to put in these new bogs to make money.
I'm sorry, I don't know you. Can you tell me?
Sorry, Patty Cooney, 5 Canterbury Path,
Thank
Carver.
you.
So my question is, if you have all these other huge amounts of bogs already that you guys have, why don't you just redo those? If those bogs are kind of obsolete, why do we need to make more and keep the old bogs still functioning? You're going to pull out 1.5 cubic million, amounts of sand. Middleborough right now is losing all access to their water. Plimpton has water problems. Plymouth has water problems. Kingston does too. Cranberries don't make much money. Why do we keep on building new bogs? Why don't we redo the old ones? This town, what are we going to do if we run out of water here? You can't go to another town. North Carver is already into Middleborough. Middleborough is riddled with PFAS. This is the thing. I understand you guys need to make your money, but you're making money off cranberries, right? So grow the cranberries on the bogs that you can redo instead of clear cutting trees and taking out sand. That's our filtration system. What are we doing? You guys are the ones that have to keep us safe. What am I going to do with my kids? When we have no water, we can't go to Middleborough. What are we doing? And how much money are they making off this? It's disgusting what's been going on. I've lived in this town for 30 years. I grew up here. I played on these bogs. I get it. They need to make their money to keep the taxes, paying their stuff. But they don't pay their share that we pay. My property taxes are like $7,000. And I can't go harvest a bunch of sand out of my backyard and make, how much money are they making off all the sand that they're taking out? It's ridiculous. I'm a town person. I pay taxes here. You people are supposed to keep us safe. What are you doing about it?
Thank you.
You can huff and puff, you bog people. I live here. I pay these things too. I got kids, man. You're taking my water.
Thank you, Patty. When the water's gone, and nobody seems to be worried about it. We can't even worry about what's going on in North Carver with the water down there. So let's just keep spreading it out over to the other end of town. Nobody's thinking about our water sources, guys. Every town, it's not just Carver, it's every town. You're not thinking about our water sources.
Thank you.
You're so smug.
Any other comments from anybody else? Okay. So, my recommendation is, based on the fact that we don't have comments from all the other boards, that we continue this while they are under appeal at DEP. Can I get a motion in that regard, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor of continuing the meeting till our next meeting, signify by saying aye. John Mason seconded. Signify by saying aye. Okay. Our next meeting, and I was going to do that at the end, so I apologize for the public meeting. So right now, we're right in the middle of the vote. Do I have to do that?
The vote has to be a motion to continue to a time.
To a certain time and date?
Yes, as we had to do last time as well.
Okay. So my recommendation is going to be the 21st of February,
It is
Wednesday.
February vacation, just so you guys know.
I think we're going to run into quorum problems.
I do
if-
too, I'm just saying.
So the 21st, based on Area 58's request, I think we're gonna move our meetings to meeting room 1 from here on out. And because of that, I don't have a time, I don't know if that meeting room is booked at that point in time. So, is that okay?
Why don't you schedule a meeting for?
Okay, so we'll schedule it for 7 o'clock, and then I can change that later on? Or does it have to be,
No, you have to have one of the 21st. The location can change.
the location can, but not the time?
I would say 7 o'clock will be fine.
Okay, I have no idea, but based on our comments from Area 58, I wanted to make it more amenable so we don't have a bunch of folks standing in the back of the room. I feel, the 21st,
Oh, I'm
They needed a motion.
we do.
I'll make a motion to continue this public.
Okay, Carol?
I will continue to, I will make the motion to continue this public hearing till 7 o'clock on February 21st. Wherever, whatever
Meeting room 1.
Room 1.
At Town Hall.
At Town Hall.
Do I have a second for John's motion? Okay. Further discussion?
Just that I won't be there, but one of you members will have to take the notes that night. just so
Well, you
know.
had told me you thought you could get coverage for that
I
night,
asked select
so
board, they said usually what someone in here will, one of the members will.
we'll probably be a little bit busy, so we'll get to that after.
Just letting you guys know.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Gentlemen, sorry about that. We'll see you on the 21st.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so I'm taking up the next, can I have order? I'm taking up the next item.
Excuse us.
I'm taking up the next item, which is a discussion of 0 Indian Street. The last meeting, you may have heard that the conservation agent actually sent an email to us suggesting that there was work being done on 0 Indian Street, and we might want to check into it. Between last meeting and now, I actually contacted...
Bob, can you just talk a little bit louder? I'm sorry.
Please.
Sure. Between last meeting and now, I talked to a representative of 0 Indian Street, Mr. Emil Taya, and I don't know whether he's here or not. He told me he was going to be. I talked to him
There's people out in the hallway as well,
earlier
so.
today.
We have Emil Jr. here.
Oh, can you speak to the property?
I can.
Okay. And as far as I'm concerned, I talked to Emil and he told me what was going on. I told him that, that they'd already approached the planning board, the conservation commission, and rather than try to regurgitate it myself to the audience, I figured it would be better to have one of you guys come in and explain what it is that's going on the property. Tell us about any earth removal that's being done.
We're using the sand that's on our property to sand our bogs.
And as I understand, well, I took some notes as I was talking. As I understand it, you're making two Form A lots that you're going to be selling?
At some point, yes.
Yes. I understand there's actually a for sale sign out on the street, so.
Okay.
And the sand that you moved is for what?
It's for our use on the cranberry bogs in Carver. We have about 100+ active acres in the town that we're using the sand to sand our beds.
And as I understood it, it was sand that was, a lot of the acreage is actually across Indian Street on the other side of the street from where you were taking the sand.
We have active beds on both sides of the road, correct?
Yeah. And have you finished excavating at this point?
Yes, sir.
So there's not going to be any more sand moved?
No.
Is there
At this time, in several years, when we need to resand the beds again, we will be utilizing, but not from that location. There's geography.
It appeared to me that maybe you didn't make it, the planning board postponed their hearing. Did they in fact do that?
I believe so.
Okay, so I know you met with the Conservation Commission on January 17th.
Yes, and we satisfied all their requirements that they needed. We put silt stocks and...
Right, I watched that
Yes.
YouTube video of that. And
Yes.
It seemed that the Concom was happy with what you would
Yes,
present.
absolutely. We follow farm practices, standard practices for cranberry growing.
So, from what I can see, there's no real need for us to be involved in this. It's all of the sand is entirely being used on the site or on their properties. And, you know, I think I asked him to come in here specifically just to help us understand what it was that was going on and to be totally transparent.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have records to
Those
show?
lots at 0 Indian Street and the bog properties the sand was going to are under the same ownership, I take it?
They're all still under the same ownership. They're all under same management. The life cycle of a cranberry vine requires sand to be placed upon the top of the beds every so often so that the foliage and the decomposing material has a layer to decompose in. So
Thank you.
typically it's about a 1/4 inch to a few inches every year.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, hi, I just
Can
want
you
to
identify
ask,
yourself, please?
my name is Rebecca
Rebecca what?
Lipton. I want to ask, what about the trucks that left the property with earth in them? Isn't there supposed to be an earth removal permit? And those trucks were actually going to Plimpton from Indian Street. So aren't you required to have an earth removal permit with trucks leaving the street and going to another town?
No, that's agriculturally exempt activity, ma'am.
Excuse me, where are the records to show how much sand was taken out of there?
Excuse me.
May I be recognized to ask some questions about this very important matter?
And I believe it should be timed.
Yes.
Are we just supposed to take his word for it? So I just want to be clear. So this is land that the Westons sold to Agda, right? Which is this agricultural operation that's going around mining all over the place. They mined all that area on Tremont Street after they sold it or they bought it. So we have videos and drones showing trucks leaving the site. They weren't just taking it across the street. Where are the records to show how much sand was removed from this location and where it went? Mr. Mason, you can't just sit there and say this is agriculture. You're not allowed, no one's allowed to haul sand to Plimpton, to some unknown location, and say that that's agriculture. You have a duty under the bylaw to find out exactly how much sand was taken out of this location and where it went. And this was not allowed by the planning board because I saw those planning board plans and I saw the Conservation Commission plans, and there was no earth removal identified on any of those plans. So that excuse doesn't work. And I want to know who owns these bogs and what they're doing and where all the sand went. There's way more than a thin layer of sand.
If there's earth removal coming out of the place that they're building house
Excuse
lots.
me. This is not a
Well, I wasn't finished.
debate here.
I wasn't finished. I'm just asking a question. If there's earth removal coming out of a lot that is going to be house lots, how is that agriculture?
Doesn't the house?
It's still a bog right now, ma'am.
Yeah.
And then secondly, just to help satisfy another point, just hopefully you had permission from the landowners to fly a drone or an FAA license to fly it over our property.
Sure.
I know we didn't give you permission, so hopefully that assists.
Oh,
your-
don't worry, we use licensed drones.
Wonderful. So hopefully I can satisfy that we're using the same.
I didn't fly the drone, so I'm just telling you
I'm
that
sorry.
I know that you're supposed to be collecting earth removal fees here. That's what you guys are supposed to do.
So this is an agriculturally exempt operation.
It is not.
You didn't even know it was existing when we came in front of you a month ago.
So you exempt it retroactively? Where's the proof that it's incidental and necessary to prepare a site for a specific use?
To remove
If
that
preparing
much
it for houses.
Sorry, I'm not gonna enter into a debate here.
So you're not gonna follow your bylaw?
I'm not gonna enter into a debate.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Judy Pratt. I've lived here in Carver for 40-something years. And my question to you is, where are these bogs? I mean, we have to know a little bit more, like, the bogs that you're using, the sand for.
You know where
are
Indian
these
Street
from?
is?
Huh?
You know where Indian Street is?
Yes, I do.
Have you been to the location?
Yes, and there's marshland nearby there too.
Absolutely. You know the bogs that are right in front of it?
Yes,
You know the bogs that are also across the street from it?
yes. Okay, I didn't know for sure if there were bogs somewhere else that you were using, or...
But tractor trailers left the property nonstop.
Are they allowed to go to other properties if they own them?
I don't know how else to move sand when it's not.
So
an
where are the
tractor
pictures
trailer.
of the sand that you
Ma'am,
put
if you're gonna
down?
be asking me questions, you have to go to the.
I know the
phone.
answer. I'm just saying this because, I mean, she lived in Clinton.
All right, so-
She had someone to move, she probably-
I'm not sure that we're getting anywhere further on this, so as far as I think I'm concerned, and I think as far as the committee is concerned, we feel that it's been adequately addressed. If the committee,
He's saying that they are on the bogs there in Carver. That the sand was on the bogs in Carver, but that wasn't the case.
May I suggest if you guys have evidence of this material going to
She said it
something
wasn't her.
other than an agricultural activity, that you document that, you email it to us, and we will address it. I don't know what else we
That
can
is
do.
not the standard. The standard is it has to be necessary and incidental to prepare the site
all right,
for a specific agricultural use.
We're not getting into a
This is
debate.
a house.
Ms. Sheehan, we're not getting into a debate here.
That's cranberry bogs now.
So,
Well, then you have to prove how
Unless
much
it's-
you took
unless
it
there's
to
other
use on your
comments from the
bogs if you're
committee.
going
Okay,
under
so
an
should we have the chair
agricultural
come back?
I'll
exemption.
move ahead.
Exemption. Somebody better read the bylaw.
You figured the earth removal committee would know something is happening right in one of their large locations in this town.
Of course they did.
They didn't know a thing.
Excuse me, there's no, if we could
Okay.
just sit here,
Okay.
kibitzing back and forth down.
This isn't kibitzing, this is
Sure
the
is.
environment you're
It sure
speaking
is.
about. In a wetland.
Mr. Vice President, are you good?
I'm good.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I can't help you. Next on the agenda is the budget and account information and discussion. I'm going to table that
Did you look at?
tonight, so we will not be discussing the budget. So we'll move right on to the next hot topic, which is a public hearing on AD Makepeace Company, Company LLC,
Keep digging, boys.
map 131, lot 2-4, located off Federal Road. Just for everybody's knowledge, there will be no public comment, just comments from the board tonight. And you all, most of you that were here last time will understand why when Mr. Madden gets through with his
Bill, do you want to go
discussion
over
here.
here and have her move on?
Wherever it's convenient for the board, I'll
Whatever you want,
defer
wherever
to
you
the
want.
chairman.
You're good right there.
Thank you.
If you're happy there, I'm happy.
Mr. Chairman, I will recuse myself from this proposed project.
All right, thank you so much, John. You can step outside. Thank you very much.
Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, Mike McVeigh, work for 80 Makepeace, been privileged to work for the great company for over 10 years. Just a broad aspect, just some broad strokes about the project. This is going to be a earth removal project along 46 Federal Road, map 131, parcel 24. We had a pretty robust Conservation Commission meeting schedule. We went, actually this original earth removal permit was put in back in May 2023. Bill went before the Concom twice, once in July and then again in August last year. Received the order of conditions in right after that August 16th, 2023 date. A little bit about this parcel. This parcel's been in continuous agricultural use for over 100 years. As you know, a lot of you folks know 80 Makepeace has had a proud history for over 170 years, using the best management practices. What we're proposing here is earth removal consistent with the creation of 3 bogs, 22.3 acres of new bog, rectangularly shaped, including a 2.9 acre retention pond. You have another, yeah.
Thanks, Carver.
As you can see here, most of this area has already been flattened, so there's very little cutting that needs to be done. There'll be 3 bog pieces here, here, and here, equal about 22.3 acres of new bog. So what I understand is we're going to be putting in high-yielding hybrid models, Haynes variety. Some of our highest yielding in other parts of the company. Those are some of the highest yielding varieties. So there's also about 160 acres of operating bog on this same parcel. So this is completely consistent with this large, roughly 350 acre parcel. It abuts the Ocean Spray Receiving Station over here to the south. But these, as you can tell, just like the previous applicant, these are modern rectangular bogs, completely different from the bogs that you'll see over here where all contours of land. These are the latest to keep us competitive in the new market, and with the high yield hybrid variety, it's what's necessary to bring the cranberry industry forward. So like I said, there'll be very minimal cutting, a little back here consistent with best management practices, and a little right here. Bill obviously is the expert in all the technical matters, so I'll leave it to him.
How much earth is coming out?
We're asking for 1.4 million cubic yards.
If you look at this packet I just handed out, it has the application, then it has also pictures and everything in there. So talk about that already taken out.
I just want to submit the green cards. I think we were asked to bring those, so.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I do need those, yes. Except this copy.
Thanks, Kevin.
Mike accurately explained what the project was. We're seeking like 1.4 million yards of earth removal to construct the 22 acre bog and a 2.9 acre tailwater pond reservoir that we use for the water supply for this acreage. So essentially, there has been previous earth removal permits issued for this site. They have removed material from the site. Pretty much the sloping on the north side, portion of the east side is fairly well along. They're progressing in a southerly direction with earth removal. But as you can see, the way this plan is shown, there's underlying contour lines that indicate the topography of the ground as it exists, and it existed at the time we did the survey back before we submitted the application in May. So anyway, all that material needs to be removed to construct the bog in these cranberry bog sections number 2. Then we also showed a small piece basically to the south of the site that we're indicating it's about 74,000 yards to come out of there. We were looking to improve growing characteristics, improve air circulation, improve reduction of shading, and insect management by removing the forested area that was really right up against, for all intents and purposes, right up against the bog road. you know, if you're out there at certain times of the day, you would see how that sun actually, you know, affected the bogs through shading. So the company prefers to have, you know, pretty wide open spaces, as you can see from the other 160 acres of active cranberry farm that's out there. Quite a lot of open space around it, not a lot of heavy vegetation, not a lot of forest immediately adjacent to the agricultural land. So that was the purpose why we were seeking to remove that. And I think there was a little bit of discussion that came up with Concom, not necessarily related to you, but I think it just is helpful to explain that that's why we were proposing to remove the material on the south side of the site. As far as the east side, we're continuing to, we're going to do a little bit of cutting, a little bit of grading to deal with the slopes. We're showing 2.5 to 1 slopes in some areas. I think we have one tight area that's that is the 2.5, but 3 to 1s are what we exhibit throughout the site. We propose to loam and seed and vegetate all those interior slopes for the project. We're building all those, like Mike said, we're building all these bogs in a rectangular fashion. They're built with a confining layer, a slowly permeable confining layer to separate the active agricultural growing land from the subgrade below it. Above that slowly permeable confining layer is a 12-inch organic layer. Those of you that have had experience dealing with some of the people down the experiment station, you'll know that that's an important feature. It really replicates a more natural wetland environment when you have that thick organic layer, about 5% or 5% nitrogen is what we look to see in it. So we've found that they're not productive. Sometimes those are excavated, a tailwater pond might be constructed there. That material is ideal to use in a situation like this, and that's what the company is intending to use. And on top of that organic layer, there'll be a layer of planting sand about, I think we're using 8 inches on this. The company has been pretty progressive in how they evaluate how much sand they want to use, their whole growing process, their agricultural process. I mean, they've experimented, and they've experimented in a big way, not just like a small 2 or 3 acre bog, but 40, 50, 60 acres with different thicknesses of planting sand and what have you. And in this instance, we've chosen, or the grower has chosen to use an 8-inch sand layer. As Mike pointed out, they will be planted with the higher yielding cultivars that are around. I'm not sure the specific one that they're going to use. Mike, I think, mentioned the name, and I apologize. Haynes. So, when you talk about like the production of a cranberry, it doesn't really take a heck of a lot more money to grow 400 barrels to the acre than it does to grow 125. And this company thrives and strives for high yielding acreage on all of it, and this is one of these additions to the farm that, like the other projects that they've done in Carver, will be a section of farm that has exceptionally high yielding cultivars, and will work well for the company in their goal to continue to be the state's leading cranberry grower and one of the leading growers in the country, for that matter. So anyway, in order to get the project built, we need to move 1.46, I think, is the number of material from the site. Constructing the bogs will probably consume, I don't know, 120,000 yards of material. So to build that confining layer, you just don't buy it. Somebody doesn't drop it off. It has to be made. It's blended on site. It's laid down with specific equipment. It's rolled. You guys are all familiar with that, I'm sure. And we've estimated that it's about 120,000 yards to build all the dike roads, to confine all the bogs, to build the low flow dike roads that we have, and to construct the cranberry beds themselves. So as part of that 1.4, some of that will be really turned into use of this site. Like there's a pile of, back in a couple of permits ago, or a permit ago, there were some asked to have some stockpiled material at this end of the site to prevent any wind or noise from migrating off the site and affecting neighborhoods. So that's an example of material that's counted in the 1.4 that's going to be used for our dike road construction. As part of the application, we submitted the truck route. You know, the truck route will come out the driveway, take a right on Federal Road, take a left on Cranberry Road. I think that there was a commitment by the company some time ago that we were not going to be taking any material down to, say, into Carver. We were supposed to be taking it down toward, I think, more to Wareham. So I was incorrect when I stated that. Also, as part of our plan, we show the limits of the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. We're not located within any of that. I know you've probably been told we are. We're not. We've also been through this site with Natural Heritage Endangered Species. The site's been subject to a complete archaeological survey by PALS out of Rhode Island. There's a letter from the office of, whose office is it? Mass Historic Commission, that basically says what they found out there was of relative insignificance, in that it did not mean the site did not need to have any further review done on it. And that report was done in 2010 when it was part of a larger project that AD Makepeace was involved with. So we rely on that information. In addition to that, we have a dust mitigation plan that we put together just to minimize the dust in the process as the project moves forward. And as of today, we've started to actually lay out those beds in the north end of the site, bring everything to grade, and actually begin the construction of the bog without. We're not taking material out of there, but they're actually building the bog. I know that's been a comment that has come up in the past as well. So I just wanted to inform Commission on that, the board on that. So really, that's what the project consists of, and happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Gentlemen?
You say it's at 22 acres, did you say?
Yes.
And then,
How many phases is this project proposed to be?
Well, we didn't really phase it. We've shown like the proposed bog 1. So bog 1 would be phase 1.
Okay.
Bog 2, phase 2, and the section 3 would be 3.
And the water recovery is part of which phase, 1 or 2?
I think that we're going to need it in phase 1.
Okay.
so as in the phases as we've done in the past, you will be grading and doing the planting and things in that phase, and then go to the second phase?
I don't know if I would go as far as say we would plant it. It would be prepared and ready to plant, depending upon the availability of the plugs, the vines, whatever, in the time of the year when that all occurs. I think that the time that we prefer to plant would be sometime in May, early June, and that would probably be it. And more I think would be better, but I'm thinking that we would probably want to be looking at 16 acres at a time for planting at a minimum, as opposed to the 8. Each section is about 8 acres. And the base and slopes will be in, like that phase 1 will be completed. All the, I'm a fan of completing those interior slopes soon, get those stabilized so we don't have to go back and clean those ditches up again.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
So yes.
Any other questions from the board? Well, you guys have gotten to know me a little bit. We're all just seeing the plan here for the first time. Thank you so much, Mike and Bill, for coming in. I think what I'd like to talk about is a site visit. So we can go out and look and see what Mr. Madden and Mike have been talking about here. So we can get our eyes on it. There's a great benefit we found from going and looking at a site prior to making any discussions or real decisions on it. My calendar for a weekend is fairly open until the 17th and 18th. I'm not going to be here. but I am available on February the 10th, which is a Saturday.
That works for me.
Everybody okay with February the 10th? You know, provided we're not getting the one snowstorm of the year. Okay.
Time?
8 o'clock work for everybody? Right, we're all early risers, so.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Saturday morning, 8 a.m. What's the address that you want us to be at? Is it
46 Federal Road.
46 Federal Road.
Excuse me, I know there's no public comment, but I'm in a butter and I got this notice that says any person wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place.
Okay.
So now's the time and place, because I am in a
It'll
butter.
be the next time. So we are just, all of us seeing this for the very first time. So we're gonna continue the meeting.
Will I get another one of these?
You
to
will.
let me know?
That's how,
No, you'll announce when the next hearing.
okay. So you will not get another letter. I misspoke, I apologize.
But this letter says I can be heard tonight.
It's up to you. You're not ending the public hearing. The public hearing will be continued.
We're gonna continue the public hearing, so tonight there'll be no public comment.
Okay, then I'd like to extend to you guys, when you do your site visit, to come to my property, which is directly across the street from it. I live at 116 Cranberry Road. Wide open view of everything, so I'd love you to come see what it's like from an abutter's view when you do that site visit. So you can get an abutter's perspective.
You can stand on the road out in front of her.
Okay, so we will stand on the street.
Can I know when you're there? Because I'd love to talk to you
Yep,
about
you
the
just read the
progression
dates.
of the project.
Yeah, we're gonna be there February the 10th at 8 a.m. to meet with the applicant, and then after that, we'll stand on the street with your viewpoint.
Okay, at 116, I've talked to Mr. Madden. You're familiar with me.
It's a site visit, it's not a public hearing. So
So-
if she wants her comments noted, she has to come to the next meeting.
Absolutely, yeah, this is certainly not, unless Makepeace allows it, and I don't think
Right.
they will, nor should they, allows you on their property.
Yeah.
We'll come to see your viewpoint
Yeah,
based on council and
Yeah.
what we all know to be right. We're not gonna have any discussion at that time, but we will come view what you're looking at.
Yeah, I would
and
just
take
love
that
to-
into consideration.
yeah, I'd love to just explain to you what
You
we've
can
seen
make-
has
the next
lived with.
There won't be
Yeah.
any discussion.
Of course,
so-
I get
And
that.
we can
So-
talk about it at the next one.
So when this says I would be heard tonight, this was wrong.
So what's happening is you are being heard tonight, so how about that?
Well,
Not really.
Not really.
Frivolous
Yeah.
conversation
So
right now.
thank you, we'll see you on February the
February
10th,
10th at 8?
8 a.m.
Okay.
And then the hearing's going to be continued.
Yep,
So she needs to know here the continued date.
and that will be the 21st at 7 o'clock,
Yes.
because we can push it after that, right? Meeting room 1.
He's telling you that in case you can't, I think they're telling
Yeah.
you that more than
Yep.
anybody, but they're not telling it to you really.
Okay, so we've got the site walk for you. I apologize, I didn't get your name.
Jennifer Bogart.
Okay, Jen, I apologize. We'll be on the site at February 10th at 8 a.m. to meet with Makepeace. We'll be out on the street after that to take a look from your perspective. The next meeting that we're going to continue this to is February the 21st, 7 p.m., meeting room 1.
Okay, and feel free to pull in my drive, like, I'm literally across the street, totally wide open.
Thank you.
She'll have donuts.
Yeah.
Oh, she'll have donuts and pie.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Till,
Do we have
we have to
a,
mention the date, which
You
is,
yep,
okay, the 21st
yep,
at 7 p.m.
at 7 p.m., meeting room 1.
Meeting room 1. That's my motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Second that motion. Further discussion on that? The one thing I will add to the audience is that
Okay.
for the previous applicant and for this applicant, I'm going to allow, for lack of a better term, opposition to the projects, a 10-minute presentation of each project based on the merits of the project. So, 10 minutes presentation at the next meeting for both of these projects. So,
Can I ask if
You cannot-
You need to vote
I
on the
just-
motion.
that's what, I was just having the further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous.
Well, Steve's not in here, so we just.
Well, he was recused, so.
Could you just clarify what you mean by on the points of the projects? If we wanted to do a presentation.
You can do a 10-minute presentation on what the applicant has said.
Oh,
Okay?
That really is, right, okay.
Okay.
Excuse me, but then there's still public comment?
There is. I'm just giving the opportunity for a longer time for a presentation.
Maybe as much time as the applicant gets, the public can have?
We're gonna do the 10 minutes because this could go on all night.
So we're gonna give the applicant 10 minutes?
They have to explain the project. So
Well, they
we'll
can as long as
be
they
moving on. All right, so we have, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks very much
Appreciate
for your
it.
time, much appreciated. Thanks.
We'll see you on the 10th. So let's, we need to discuss our upcoming site walks and locations.
How's your water?
We've got the morning of the 10th. Can somebody ask Mr. John to come back in now, right? Mr. Mason? Pardon me.
Oh, that just cleared the house.
Thank you, sir. All right, I apologize for the interruption. We'll keep moving on. The next order on the agenda is can you guys keep it down for me, please? Thank you. I'd like to schedule our next site walks, which we've already made a date. John, you didn't hear it, it's for February the 10th. I hope you can make it. You'll have to recuse yourself from the ADM site walk. We plan on meeting with them on Saturday, February 10th at 8 a.m. Should take an hour and 15. I'm assuming like it did the last time. Then we're gonna stand on the street at Jen Bogart's house to get a perspective from a neighbor. And then we'll move on to our next site visit, which will be the Mackey site. We need to look at them again.
We're gonna follow up, I was gonna ask.
Say 9:30, that's perfect.
So we're gonna follow up on Mackey.
We are,
Yeah.
Don't worry,
yes,
they
sir.
got 2 more weeks to keep digging,
John
Jen.
had mentioned last, every month they do it.
Where are we meeting on the Makepeace project?
Right is right.
46 Federal Road.
Which
Email
is
all this shit.
by the entrance to
Anyway, so they got it ahead of time.
the scales?
I don't know exactly where it is.
It's at the scales.
Is it? Yeah, okay.
Are we talking
I
about?
know the road.
The ADM site.
Yep.
Yep. So we'll do Mackey at 9:30, and you guys are gonna have to help me here. We've been to Edgewood, we've been to Mackey, we'll go to Mackey a second time. We've been to Pontiff, we'll have been at Makepeace. Where else do we need to go
It's just not the
for the
land.
next site visit? And the guys that have been here longest can help me.
Yeah, I'm looking at what, remember
Oh, and
which ones they are.
it must be pretty close to it. Nothing, put anything more in
Well,
there.
it's
I've
like
seen that
there's
now.
dates being
Dump it in
updated.
there.
On the end, are there dates on the end of, John?
Yeah, from last year,
Yeah, we need.
2 years ago.
Okay.
Well, there's a whole bunch of us new people here, so
We
it
have
makes
those-
it easy.
We have those records. We have the Johnson property.
But just remember, there was no meeting August, September, October.
Correct.
And November, you didn't do any, so
Yep, so,
They're all
like I
up
say,
for grabs.
they're all up for grabs, so.
I think I don't know which one it is, the Johnson, the active Johnson.
That's the one on Fosdick, or is that?
It's another mess in town.
Okay.
And then,
You know what's right near there is Weston.
yeah,
Eric Weston.
Eric and Elaine Weston's.
Do you think you want to try and get those guys in too?
Yes.
We'll do Johnson and Weston?
Yeah, they're close to each other.
Perfect.
what time, Johnson?
So Johnson will be at probably 10:15, 10:30? Because it's gonna take a little time to drive there.
I think we visited them together last time we did.
Okay.
And then Weston at,
Let's say 11 o'clock for Weston.
and I'll just get I'll get phone numbers so that if you guys are running early, you can call them.
Yes, please.
But I'll let them know sooner than later.
Okay. We all good with that? All right, so moving on. We've already kind of scheduled the next meeting date of the 21st. Meeting room 1 at 7 o'clock. Okay.
So we're doing 4 visits,
I'm gonna get my money's worth out of you, Mr. Ward.
Mr. Chairman, I filled these out. I didn't have the addresses and the times. I just jotted them in as we were jotting them over.
Yep, we'll pass that, we'll pass those in to Carol.
Okay.
So if everybody wants to pass to Carol the site visit notes that I'll took individually here. Pass that down, if you would.
John, I'll add them to the other few that I do have, and I'll try to update them.
Cool.
Yep, that would be good. All right, so that is the last thing on our agenda.
Can I pass those down, Dick?
All right, so,
I'll take those.
thank you. I will entertain a motion from the board to adjourn open session and enter into executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Paragraph A, Section A, Paragraph 3, for the following matters. Discussing the matters in open session will have a detrimental effect on the town's litigating position, and the chair so declares, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation known as Troy Currents et al. Versus A.D. Makepeace et al., and then to discuss potential litigation with respect to fees assessed in connection with the project by SLT Construction off Spring Street, with the board to not return to open session.
So moved.
Thank you, Roger.
so second.
Second, so in this regard, because it's open session, we will in fact take a roll call vote. Carol, can you do the roll?
Yeah, I'll do a roll call.
Roger Shores,
Michael Harrison, aye.
Yes.
John Mason, yes. I will be recusing myself from matter number 1.
Yes.
Scott Hanula, yes. So thank you, everybody.